We're in?
Yeah.
There you go. Canadian wine lovers, Cars Wine Club members, welcome. Happy Wine Wednesday. A beautiful day, a little earlier than usual. It is 5 o'clock Eastern time. We are live on location. We're at Lele Stonebridge in Niagara on the Lake. Niagara River appellation. Really, really cool spot here. We're so grateful. We're so happy to be here. A packed week, lots of events all the way over Niagara. We had a great conference yesterday, hosted by the Ontario Craft Winery Association. And today it's a unique event because we have Cars Wine Club members around here. So a bunch of members are joining us. And we have a bunch of people from the industry. So where Cars Wine Club members can rub shoulder and meet other people from the industry. So first, we need to say thank you to our hosts, Lele Vineyard and Stonebridge. Fahik, thank you so much for having all us here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to having the whole industry here. So it's very generous of you to open the door. I mean, it's fairly new here. When did you guys open your door?
We took over from Lely family in 2021, and this establishment, from a vineyard perspective, 50 years old, from a winery perspective, 25 years old. So we are both new and very old, which is lovely.
Great.
So great. Thanks for having us. Thanks for all of the members of the industry who are here. We have Dean Stoiker here from Stratus. Also, we have Jeff Muth from Divergence. We have
Richard De Silva
Richard
from
De Silva
BC.
all the way from BC.
Who's all the
Richard,
winemaker? Lou Puglisi from Bellaterra.
Marcel Morgenstern. Who else? Susan here from Stratus as well. Allison from Diamond Estates. Cheers.
Gabe DeMarco from
Gabriel DeMarco from
Cave Spring Vineyard.
We have Anne Sperling, who is a winemaker consultant here at Stonebridge.
From Mary Nissen.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. And did we say Jeff Mood as well?
Yes, I did say
you already
Jeff.
did.
So there you
Amazing.
go.
We haven't missed somebody, huh?
I'm sure I did, but let me know at some point. I know
No.
we're expecting a bunch of other people coming in.
Which is great.
Pretty early, but I would like to bring a special guest.
Very special guest. We're so thrilled.
So tell me again the name.
Lord Mayor, right? That's what you guys call your mayors here, right?
Lord Mayor Gary.
Gary Zalepa.
Mayor of Niagara on the Lake.
good.
I should be much more ready than that.
No, you shouldn't be. In fact, all these people here are much more excited to hear from themselves than a politician.
You know what?
So I'm very humble to be here.
We have a big problem. When she tried to get me ready, that's where I messed up the whole thing. So I just can't, I have to go and just wing
Just go
it.
with it.
So
Yeah.
that's why I say I will be a very good politician.
I'm doing a little bit for my job.
Thank you for being
But
here.
no, we appreciate you being here in Niagara Lake, and we're so blessed to have some great wineries all around the Niagara region. And the town is really excited to have people like yourself visit and enjoy. And it was great to hear you yesterday at the conference. I look forward to meeting everybody here. So.
I mean, this is very well put together. And I was exceptionally impressed with the size of the conference center. I mean, we're from the big city and it was like, oh my God, this is a huge conference center.
Well, I tell
There
you,
was a lot of people there. It was well organized. It was, really, really impressed. We're grateful to be here. We come like twice a year.
okay.
We're making a point to be here much more often because it feels like home.
Well, that's fair. Well, we're going to have to help you find a real estate agent.
I've heard maybe someone can help me around.
You never know.
We never know.
We think, Niagara, we're starting to really get things going across not only the wine industry, but across tourism in general. I know as far as on the government side of things, from the municipality, we're really interested in working with our private sector partners and getting things right and really competing internationally. So,
I mean, that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game.
we're
So
looking up our game.
in terms of wine, are you a white guy or a red guy?
I'm a red guy.
You're a red guy. You're more of a Cap Franc,
Oh, I love it, especially the Niagara Cab Franc.
Niagara Cab Franc?
And a Pinot, Goron.
There you go. There you go. Oh,
And I
my
guess some of
God.
my favorites are in the room, but I won't say which ones. But yeah, I'm really blessed to be able to.
Can we bring a glass of Cap Franc here? Because we don't only have Canadian wines here. That's what we do. That was the whole thing. Like, we are passionate of Canadian wines. and the privilege that we have to showcase wine from coast to coast.
Fantastic.
Nova Scotia all the way to Vancouver Island, everything in between. And we truly find that Cabernet Franc, that's the home of Cab Franc. That's my favorite variety. I mean, not especially Niagara on the Lake. I have to say one thing. Every year.
You're asking.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I do my top 10 wine of the year. We taste between 1,200 to 1,500 Canadian wines every year.
Okay.
Okay.
Have to get another line of work.
Every year we do our top 10. The 2019 Reserve Cabernet Franc from Stonebridge was my number 6 one of the year last year with 94 plus one.
Well done.
So,
Well done.
well done to your team and to your winemaking team. So cheers to that. Mira, you want to come in the conversation? Do you have any question for Lord Mayor here? Because I know that you impressed him a lot yesterday during your talk.
Oh, get out of here.
I find when you go to all these events, you learn quite a bit, even from being outside the business or being in government. And I think it's really important to go and find out what the professionals are talking about. And so as a government, we can learn from that, right? So
Yeah, I thought that was amazing that you were there. We really appreciate that you came tonight as well. And
I really appreciate the
Is
invitation.
it your first minute, second minute?
This is my first time as mayor. A couple times on councils.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Fantastic.
Three times around on councils.
All right.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really making sure that we're doing the right things in our community. I grew up here. It's important to me what we do, and as a business person here as well, I couldn't help but think that maybe we could do things a little differently. So that's why.
What's your biggest priority right now?
Right now, our biggest things we're working on is the tourism master plan. So we're really looking to bring the partnership together so that we can reach out to the consumers and the visitors across the world that want to come and have a great experience. We want to make sure they know the Niagara Lake is a place to do it.
Mayor, thank you for coming.
Thank
We
you.
greatly appreciate your presence.
thank you
Thanks
so
for having me.
much.
Appreciate
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Woo!
Lord Mayor,
Of Niagara on the Lake.
now we have
Thank
another special guest. Janice, come on in, come on. Okay, because we have a member here who celebrated her birthday and
So
because-
she won this during our Winery of the Year Top 10 Wines Live.
so,
And
so this is Mira.
Yes.
This is the wine guy.
Yeah.
And that's you. Yeah, so
woohoo!
so now you're part of the club. You've always been a really big part of the club, but now you're really part of the club. You're on the t-shirt.
Yeah, so we hope you have a great
So-
birthday tomorrow. And I'm so glad, so glad we finally got this to you because I know you won it a couple months ago. So,
I got lost in the mail.
oh yeah, I don't think it ever got to the mail. But we hope you have fun wearing it, and we really appreciate.
And thank
All you
for-
do as a
thank you
member.
for doing- So I have
Woo!
a couple questions before I let you go. Are you a white or a red girl?
A white,
You're a white?
yes.
Are you Riesling Chardonnay? Riesling. Have you tried the Cave Spring Riesling? No, Gabriel just bought. But Lely does the wild ferment Riesling,
Oh, I like.
and they do the off dry and the Riesling in the feature that we're releasing this week with Lely. You have a fantastic 91-point Riesling on that one
Alright.
from Lely.
Okay.
50-year-old
Good chance to try
wine.
it tonight.
So, thanks for
Woohoo!
being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. So now we're gonna head into the interviews with Faik.
Yeah, so we recorded an interview a couple of days ago. So I hope you're going to enjoy that 15 minutes, a little bit of a background information on how they started the Stonebridge Vineyard, which is one of the best piece of land in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and also how they acquired that legendary vineyard here, 50-year-old vineyard, the Lely vineyard from the Lely family. So if I goes into more detail to that, so we'll listen to that conversation. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and then we'll be back with some blind tasting a little
Yeah,
bit
and then we get
later.
to bring the
so-
average wine enthusiasts.
Yeah,
so we
another
can chat-
member.
we can chat a little bit about different stuff.
Perfect.
Thank you. We'll see you. Here we are. There you go. So we are with Peter Gamble and Sperling. They are
Hi,
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. Here we are with Faik Turkman, owner of Lely Vineyard Stonebridge Winery. Faik, good day. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I mean, what can it be better? A week in Niagara. I mean, like seeing you guys, all of these fine folks, and reconnecting with our peers. So it's been amazing. We are excited to be at the winery. We have the room full here on the other side with Carl's Wine Club members, industry leaders. So, Faik, I was for the first time I connected with your brand a year and a half ago. I had the chance to meet with Thomas, and I didn't. I knew about the heritage of the Lely Vineyard. I didn't know about the Stonebridge brand, and the holy God that I fell in love. If people who know me or members, I'm a big fan. I'm a passionate of Chardonnay. So I connected immediately with what you do, especially with Stonebridge. And it's been a great journey so far. And now we're here at your winery with the members. So, I mean, it's been a great ride for a year and a half ago. What I want to know, Faik, it's what's your background? Where are you from? And how did you connect with the wine industry?
Uh, Maybe it is similar to most of the Canadians. I'm immigrant from Turkey. I spent a lot of time outside of Turkey before moving to Canada. So for us, it was a process coming here. We tried Vancouver, we tried Montreal, but eventually settled in Toronto. By trade, I'm a management consultant, mainly worked for banks and technology firms. Whenever they were implementing technology, I was dealing with the human side of the things, adapting processes, people, technology kind of thing. You could imagine it's not the most exciting job. I mean, it is a process. So whenever I was feeling depressed of my job or the moving to a new country, you have less friends than you used to. We were running to Niagara to get some steam off with my wife. And you could imagine when you drive around wine country, most of the conversation is, yeah, we should buy a piece of land. Yeah, we should buy a piece of land. And I'm coming from a farming family back home, and maybe except me and two of my cousins, everybody is farmer. Everybody's producing something. Not wine, they're producing grapes, they're drying grapes, they're producing cash crops, citruses, etc. So I thought that how difficult could be. I mean, I saw farming for my entire life, and still think that statement one side. I mean, it is a hell of a journey. And one day I called my wife. Literally, I said, "Honey, I bought a vineyard." I mean, I saw something, estate agent putting a sign down, and I stopped by and I asked how much it is, what is the down payment, kind of thing. And there was a source came from my mom's heritage, and she never allowed us to waste our money. It has to go to land or home, kind of thing. And I thought that's the best use of it. I mean, I just signed the check, and my wife didn't see that as a midlife crisis. She said, "Wonderful, I'm all for it." That day, she should have stopped it. Now she's saying that Harley Davidson ponytail would do much better for the family finances. But that's how we started. I mean, I saw the piece of land. It wasn't a vineyard. There was a huge plum orchard with dead plants on it. There was some trellising with some miserable-looking wine wasn't really taken care of. So a logical person would be moving away from that land, I think. But during the due diligence, I saw the heavy clay structure. I was at that time reading a lot about wines and wineries. And I connect with Peter Gamble and I asked him, the soil looks like Burgundy. Am I crazy? He said that anybody who invests into wine is half crazy, but yeah, I mean, we could produce good quality wines there. And they warned me about the difficulty of the land. There wasn't much vineyard around that's producing premium wine, and my passion was I'll just produce very little. I'll keep it as a hobby plus level so that I could just manage the costs better. But 2, 3 years later, we cleared the land, we put the drainage, and we're producing. And it has been a while. I mean, I wanted to produce top-notch Chardonnay, which came a little bit easier than the second part, producing a Merlot Cap Franc blend like the ones that I love from Right Bank Bordeaux. That required planting, replanting, and after this is our 9th year on that site. We have Chardonnay from 2017 onwards, some years less than the other. And the other stuff, we only have sample batches yet to come. And there's a couple other sellers because the way I wanted to do was give enough time on the wine making barrels and then enough aging on the bottles before releasing, which adds a couple more years to the production cycle. And but I mean, in the first year we released, we got a gold from Chardonnay du Monde for our Chardonnay. That was really boosting our morals at that time, because until you get some kind of recognition from third parties, you don't really know. I mean, I love my Chardonnay. I thought that was the best in the world, but is it really? Would the professionals like it? Would the public like it? And that was how Stonebridge journey started. I mean, there it has a different dynamics than Lady. On Stonebridge, we are really going after top premium end, and if something doesn't fit to our standards, we sell in bulk and get out of that batch. Everything is small batch, even on a small field with 45 rows. We do clone selections, we ferment individually. For that reason, there are years we end up with 3-4 different wines from the same pick day, based on whether it's on the east side, west side, this clone, that clone, makes a huge difference. So I am a Chardonnay enthusiast or freak, depending on how you put it. I mean, currently from 2017 to 21, which we bottled recently, but still needs to stay a little bit on the cellars, we have 11 Chardonnays from this very, very small field. And I love them all. I mean, they all shows character. 17 is completely different than 18. And East 2019 is different than West 2019. So this is a short introduction to my how I started this journey.
I love it because you and me can definitely connect on the Chardonnay passion. I mean, this is a multi-hour conversation that we can have. When you were traveling prior with your old job, I mean, like we all, I run restaurant and hotel for a long time before starting this venture, and when we have corporate lunch, corporate dinner, we know that the people who are hosting, they're often passionate about international wine. So for you, when you're taking your clients out, you're getting the wine list. Where were you attracted on the wine list? Was it Bordeaux? Was it Italy? Was there a specific region that you were looking, or at home did you build a little collection of international wine? What was your passion on international wine prior to your journey?
I mean, it all started with France. I was working in London, UK for a long time, and they
Okay.
have incredible wine trade industry. I mean, they buy, sell, import, and the restrictions are, I think, much lower than any other country because they're kind of a wine hub at the time. And I can't believe that I was buying and offering and sharing some of the Burgundies at those times, showing my age, were not that expensive. I mean,
I know.
managerial salary could afford some. Even the Romani Contis I had is from those times. I can't afford them anymore. And it all started with that. I mean, I loved Chardonnays from Burgundy. Start enjoying Chablis more than barrel aged fermented ones first. Then my palate start evolving towards more bone style wines. On the reds, I loved Right Bank from the outset. I still do. I mean, the way they blend Merlot, Cap Franc, and touch of Cap Sauvignon. Each year is different, obviously. that resonates with me. But at the same time, in all those travels, I spent a lot of time in Middle East or Northern Europe and some in Balkans as well. You go to a country that you don't recognize them with their wine industry, and then you sit to a restaurant, somebody's passionate trying to sell the local wine, and you taste them, you say, oh my God, this is good. And in a way, when I started in Niagara, I remember that no reason we could do as good as or better than Burgundy, and why not take upon them? I mean, I still remember a wine I had in Slovenia. It was amazing. Like, I mean, why it was charged that low? Like nothing on the menu. It was cheaper than the starter, and you could do it. And in fact, I think many of us in Niagara is attempting to do, and we're getting some international recognition as well. So it is to do with maybe the process pattern. So we lack hundreds and hundreds of years of written history of wine. You go Burgundy, and I remember talking to a winemaker, trying to learn as much as I can. What do you plant? How do you plant? How do you decide? And his answers were boiling down to, it's the way it was written on the book. It's the way they tried it. I was like, he doesn't know anything about he also picks certain things. His whole knowledge is on winemaking. Like, how could I learn anything from them on what I should be planting, what I should be considering? Because they were right. They tried 50 things, didn't work. 51 worked. And they said, how wonderful it is. I'm sure in this time, somebody in Niagara will say, well, we won't plant clone X, but we do that. We won't use rootstock of SO4. We'll use 3309. I don't know. I don't know what the history will say, but everything we do, I mean, in Lady, I had this huge advantage to replant certain parts of the vineyard. Donna and Lady showed up in our planning session, and they were saying, no, you can't plant Syrah to that log. It always freezes. There's a different soil there. And they tried certain varieties didn't work, and they regret not planting more certain varieties. I mean, even that small piece of history covering last 35, 40 years helped us a lot. I mean, okay, of course, we did our due diligence. We got the lab working on the soil. We looked into other vineyards nearby. But somebody working on this field for 35, 40 years, just sharing that information is very helpful. I think when I go back, I still love Burgundy, but at the same time, if I'm in a new country, I just go, what is special there? It could be a weird thing, very hot piece of land or very cold, but still could find something. Italy is different. Italy is for my hobby. I don't really take risks if I'm with a client on the old times. It is a country with thousands and thousands of interesting grapes. Every time I thought that I kind of understand Italian wine, somebody shows me a wine on a variety I never tasted, and go like, oh God, this is good. I think big respect to them. They love their food, they love their grapes, and they kind of hate the neighboring town. They think that theirs is better than anyone else's. And I think
I know.
isn't that passion creates the good food and good wine and good everything.
Yeah. So before we touch base on the very special plot of land that you purchased, I believe, in 2021 at Lely Vineyard, let's backtrack a couple of years prior, and when you met with Peter Gamble. I mean, that was the beginning of the vision for Stonebridge. Have you had the Stonebridge project started before you met Peter and things took a different direction, or you purchased Stonebridge, you brought Peter on board from the outset, and you guys started to look at the strategy? How everything started?
I mean, it started in a pretty naive way of me seeing the world. I thought that I'll buy a piece of land and then open the book, study. I mean, consultants, our upside is we could go and analyze all of new things and organize. Downside is we think that that will work in most of the cases. I bought a piece of land and I said, okay, I'll now start learning and start reading in more detail, looking into the soil charts, start reading about GGO records, anything I found. And I rolled into a wine appreciation course, WSET programs, and I met David Lawrenson. And on a break, I explained him what I'm doing. He said that, ooh, you better get some help. It doesn't look like you are in a good position. So he connected with me with JL from Stratus. And
From Stratus, yeah, JL.
with me. Initially, he said that, don't do this, man, don't do this, in a funny way. Then he gone through what I should worry about. Instead of telling me what to do, he was more like, these are the topics, these are the discussions. And he said that maybe I introduced to a friend, and he introduced me to Peter. Obviously, Peter's approach was slightly different. He never says no or deductively explain you certain things that you have to do this and that. He listened to me. Literally, gone through a year of, I think we were interviewing each other, more like he was interviewing me, whether I'm serious about the wine. He didn't want to, obviously, now I understand, get into a project just because somebody showed up on his doorsteps. Now I understand that he turns down lots of projects. So I was lucky that he liked what I want to do, and he was excited. I can't say the project changed its direction. He imposed more things on me to do, like sorting out the infrastructure first. How are we going to even like putting boring drainage systems? Like, you do it once, you have to do it right. And he knew that I will be meticulously on top of the projects once we set up the direction. And we discussed. At the end, he came up with a plan saying that based on what you want and what the region could afford, what this piece of land do, these are the course of actions you could take. And jointly, we did the selections within his plan and make it more focused. I mean, he didn't really had a big ask about whether we should be planting dozens of varieties or less. He was saying that both could be an option. And I was more of a single variety guy. Obviously, immediately start reducing the numbers into what we wanted. And jointly, we shake hands on certain risky steps that I really want to take. He said that, yep, I mean, I would love to do it, especially the Merlot-based thing, given that Stonebridge is coldest and at the same time warmest part of Niagara on the lake. It's right in the middle. If we could avoid April frosts, perfect to put it, but it always happens in April. So he said, this is a risk. I would love you to take it, but you should be aware of it. That is generally Peter's approach. He analyzes, tells you all the options, a path that will lead to a happiness, and also some risky paths that could lead to other type of happiness. Like every time we get a success out of that block, I think we're good for 2 more years. We could take another frost on the following year, kind of thing. And that is how Peter gets involved, and also get involved in certain stages. Whenever we were discussing farming, etc., then we rent a place at Southbrook to produce our wines until we had a place. And Anne was there looking after some of the wines. And eventually, Peter and become an integral part of Stonebridge project. I mean, even though we have people on the floor operational doing winemaking tasks, they look after the strategy of it. Peter who decides on when to pick and what type of wine we are making, and the final blending. He is the person chairing it. And Anne is our vineyard control person, making sure that we are doing the right thing to produce premium grapes. And she's also very active on the production side of the stuff. And I assign myself as a student. I mean, when you have the big names, it would be only arrogant of me to just claim that I did anything. I'm a student. I'll learn in 20 years time, you'll see me as a full-blown, fully educated winemaker. But I'll take my time. I'm enjoying the ride. That's what it counts. And just even deciding on the batch sizes and how we are going to do it, and making decisions about if certain thing shows a different character, how long we have to work with it. I think that is a complex decision that I'm making. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the part I'm playing in the overall scheme. And with these two names, anybody would be happy to, I think, work on their side.
I mean, you had a special piece of land, but you didn't have a winery. And in 2021, a wonderful opportunity shows up, and it was a historical piece of land. I mean, when I do research and when I look back of the history of Niagara on the Lake, there's a name who always comes back, always, and it's the Lely name. So the Lely vineyard came up for sale, and I mean, you didn't miss that chance. You jump on the opportunity, you purchase it, and you killed a few birds with the same stone because you needed this place to make your own wine. It's opened up a retail opportunity for you. So tell me a little bit how everything unfolded on that front.
I mean, that was just fate, I guess. We had a plan to build something on the Stonebridge vineyard, and I completed everything, get the site plan approvals, get the engineering design done, and building permit. And we start putting the pieces of the plan in place, build a new road access to the place, about to put down for the electrical and water infrastructure, but COVID hit. And I remember 2-3 weeks later, I was just trying to understand whether the supply chain issues is an issue. Steel manufacturers said that they're going to be late for a couple of months, then a month, and then they send my check back, saying that they can't see a clear path that they could bring the steel, all the bits and pieces, structure together, and every contractor, anybody who has a deposit with me, I mean, these are really honorable people. They all gave my money back, saying that, sorry, I mean, we can't tell you that we'll be there in time. And I said that, okay, even if I start the project, I might be having a concrete, but no steel, or the steel structure without cladding. And while thinking about it, I said I better rent someplace because we were really demanding more space from Southbrook, and they weren't in a position to give it to us. And I was looking around, and the estate agent I was working with said that, hey, I mean, property came to market. Would you be interested? And I went in, and 4 weeks later, we got the keys.
And everything happened fast. I mean, there was a harvest time and all that, right?
Even, I mean, even though I reached out to Lady Family, we weren't for Lady Family. They sold it to a BC-based kind of investment-focused group. They had their wineries there, and they wanted a foothold in Niagara for their ice wine business. And COVID affected them in a different way. The tourism died, and you know that ice wine is more a tourism-based business. So they were trying to get out. We get in and put an offer. The difference in prices was huge. Their expectation about how the inventory should be handled, everything looked like this won't fly. But I think my offer to them was very clean. And I reached out to Lady Family, and they were so happy that somebody with similar mindset is going to. I explained them Stonebridge, and I said that, how do you think this will fit in, and would they allow me to use Lady name? They said the name is linked with the company. If you buy it, it is yours. But I still want your blessing on this. It is important for me. And they said yes. And they helped us a lot on due diligence. I just gave them the GGO record saying that this is what they produce. Do you think it's nice? And there's lots of issues on the field due to different type of care that the intermediate management showed. And they said, okay, I mean, we had those kind of things in the past. There were years we couldn't really spend that much money. We could do this and that. And they gave me a moral boost that, yep, you could do it, kind of thing. And a friend of mine jumped in saying, okay, I could put the missing funds into the picture. Somebody who also wants to get into the wine industry from an edge corner, more like an investor. And that happened. I mean, I realized what I purchased after I purchased. I sit on the porch in the late November, and I understand that I bought a piece of heritage that I have to take care of it. And there's a now new project. It's not like Stonebridge and Produce Wine at Lady, how we preserve and take care of that legacy. And now it is given to my custodianship. I can't damage it. And some of the locals were showing up with questioning eyes about what am I going to do. They weren't very pleased with the transition management, with the previous owners, the way they handle the name Lady. People were really caring about small artifact that's placed in the entrance, saying that it doesn't fit in with the Lady legacy. I mean, it looked like I had a huge, I can't say stockholders, but like maybe partners that I didn't realize. Town felt deeply about Lady's value. And it was very clear, working with, at that time, Derek also kindly showed up, helping us take over the property, showing us where the drainage line goes, how they were working with Scott Henry, how they convert from Scott Henry to existing trellising system. I mean, these are very valuable things. You would pay fortune to get that advice, but they were freely available because they wanted Lady to snap back to what it was. And I had all the intentions at that time to not even put a single dent to old legacy. If we could revive, we will revive. If we have to restore, we will restore. And Donna, Lady, appointed herself as our self-appointed marketing director and image consultant. That worked wonderful. I mean, we had a wonderful 6 months where everybody was running around trying to fix something. I mean, we had a problem. The shelves were empty. And I had a decision standing saying that I'm not going to close the winery for a single day. We got the key, and that afternoon, the shop was open. Whatever was there, Stonebridge inventory helped. There were some wines that were about to be ready, so we rushed them a bit. Some of them we regret later on, but we need to fill the shelves with at least 5, 6, 7 wines. Most of the wines we inherited from the previous couple of years wasn't really in a good state, so we donated those to the nature, I should say. And there wasn't much to do, and with the approval of CRA, I should say, they were disposed. We kept some of the wines that were still on the shelves from pre-2015, Derek's and Donna's time. And ice wine-wise, they were great because they aged forever. The other ones, some of them were not kept in good condition, so we had problems here and there. But Stonebridge wines come after like 4 or 5 months gradually, and now we are up to 60 SKUs. I mean, Stonebridge is a very small operation, but we have a lot of batches that are bottled individually. We have batches with 30 cases, 50 cases, and our largest case volume is 400, and there's only one of them. It's generally somewhere between 50 to 250 is what we produce per variety / lot, I should say. So they start populating. Obviously, on the first year, we were saying, we have 7 Chardonnays. They go like, anything else? Yeah, we have 7 Chardonnays. So we become then our friend did, but when something comes to our shelves, generally like 4 of them comes, east, west, north kind of thing. We love it. I mean, our thinking about our customers love it because they show up to taste variety. They think that offering Chardonnay only or Cap Franc is not, but then they figure out, oh my God, 4 Cap Francs, 2019 and 20, four of them are very different. And there's a lot of stories behind them, why they are different, and they love hearing that. And now we have a little bit more, obviously, in terms of variety. But again, we will never be like a 20 different varieties per. Oh, that's wonderful.
So did you know that this wine was my number 6 wine of the year last year, Faik? So every
Yeah.
year, because we taste over 1,200 Canadian wines every year. Every year I do my top 10, and this for the 2023 for the year 2023, the 2019 Reserve Cabernet Franc was our number 6 wine of the year with the 94 plus points. So one of the top 1% of the wine that I tasted last year. Incredible wine, the 19 Reserve Cap Franc. And I was so impressed with the red portfolio. Last night I opened for the first time the 2020 Cabernet Sauvignon, and I would say there's a lots of potential in that 2020 Cabernet Sauvignon. There's so much layer, so much structure. It is an absolutely beautiful wine.
Yeah.
What resonates the most? Oh, go ahead.
Tasting that one as well. That's what I have in my red glass. Each morning, what I do is instead of opening my day with coffee, I wonder, like, just after a very light breakfast, I generally have a very light breakfast, piece of bread, what my 2 favorite wines would be every morning. So that test is going on. Today, I'm doing 2019 Chardonnay and 2019 Cab Franc. We pick them on the same day. That's why I always taste them together to see whether there's a huge difference between them. And they are. I mean, that Cab Franc is close to our heart. I mean, I think that is one of the wines we released a little bit early because we need to put something on the shelves. I think in bottle aging, it's improving. Like between last year and this year, it improved substantially. I think it's going to go better and better. It's ready to drink, but at the same time, if the patience to put it to one side for a couple more years, you will see, I think, a big difference there.
I tasted side by side the Reserve East versus the Reserve West from the 2019 vintage. I mean, the East has an incredible precision, while the West is a little bit more plush, a little bit more round. Both are fantastic wines. But you're mentioning that you have different small lot coming up, but do you have anything that you would like to? And now, is there any different SKUs on Chardonnay who are going to be released from the 2021 vintage down the road or something? Or there's nothing but the East, the West, the Reserve, and what we know about the lineup right now?
I mean, 21 is going to be interesting. East again produced very distinct and elegant wine, which is direct descendant of the East you tasted. On the West and the middle blocks, we come up with another split. This time, they're both going to be a blend of 2 of 3. Instead of having one West, we will have one West and the center block, 95 with 548 clones blended. And the second one is going to be 96 with 548. They're so different. I don't understand sometimes how could they be, but they are. We are talking about 45 rows. If you think about it, 380 foot wide lot we are talking about. And the soil is very standard. It has to be the colonial differences.
Yeah.
Because our farming practice is very standard in that block. A gentleman with the name Phil Clark is taking care our vineyard there, and he's creating miracles in terms of how he takes care of it. He is like, I think, more than 30 years experience in this area. He's part of the team. I mean, he is part of the winemaking team maybe more than I am, because he is bringing the good grapes to our crash pad. So 21 is like that, and 22 will be a skip year for us. And we'll take it from there. 23, we have a different one in the cellar. We have to just, there's 2 too young.
Still waiting of which piece are going to fit with which piece, right? And it's probably like, we'll call it the stage 2. You get the ferment, you got everything, our single barrel right now, and you and your team are Peter and you are going to meet and try to fit the pieces together and see which barrel and which clones, which block are fitting together down the road.
Yeah.
There you go. Faik, I mean, we can keep that conversation going for a very long time. And I'm really grateful for your time this morning. I'm glad that I'm not the only one to taste wine right after breakfast. I'm glad that you're part of my team on that.
Always.
I greatly appreciate that conversation, and we'll see you very, very soon, okay? I greatly appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for meeting with the members. Have a great, great day.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. That was a great interview. I don't know if you can tell, but it was a little early. It's like still 5:30 a.m. when we did that. Not for Faik, but for me out east. So
At West. So what do we got here, Carl
so we
Boucher?
got 2 world-class Chardonnay. And when I say world-class, it's truly world-class because the biggest, most, I would say, known international competition for Chardonnay is the Chardonnay du Monde. And one of these 2 was awarded the gold medal, and the other one was awarded the silver medal. So there's not a ton of winery around here or anywhere in the world who got 2 Chardonnay du Monde medal. I know that we have a winemaker from BC here whose family produced the grapes from the 1995 Chardonnay du Monde gold winner, Richard de Silva Vineyard. And I believe that there might be another 1 or 2 other producer who won some Chardonnay du Monde in the room here. But we have 2 Chardonnay du Monde medal. It's the Reserve West and the Reserve East from the 2019 vintage made by Stonebridge Vineyard, produced in the cellar by Peter Gamble and Anne Sperling. So 2 of my very, very, very personal favorite Chardonnay. So let's start with.
So you know which one is which?
I don't.
You
Absolutely don't.
Okay.
we start with Carl Boucher.
Yeah. So tell us about each wine.
So I have the Reserve East and Reserve West. I don't know at all which one it is. If someone can bring me a spittoon, please,
Oh, yeah.
that would be fantastic.
It's okay if it's got stuff in it.
That's okay.
Thanks, Adrian.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
A little bit more
Yeah, just put
tropical
it there.
on the one side, but a little bit more restraint on the other.
We're big fans of the 19 whites, especially for Chardonnay from Niagara.
It's not a fair competition because I tasted them last week, so I have a fairly good idea of which one is which.
And then there's me, and I wouldn't know if I tasted them last week or yesterday. I probably maybe, yeah.
So I'm gonna put my name here. It's a very tough decision. Both are really good, but I'm gonna put Carl here on number 2. Okay. The average wine enthusiast, Mike LaPlante. For anyone who doesn't know, Mike has a YouTube channel. It's called The Average Wine Enthusiast. He does awesome stuff about wine. Lots of international stuff that you do.
I do, yes, of course. I'm consumer based. I want to make sure that the average guy drinks the best wine he can, no matter what budget you have. So obviously, international is very important, but people like Carl Boucher, like, give it up for Carl Boucher. This guy is one of the biggest advocates for Canadian wine, and Canadian wine has really, I think it has really come into itself within the last 8 to 10 years, I think.
I mean, I give up my career with international wines because I truly believe that I missed out on the evolution between 2005 and 2015. I missed out on that skyrocketing evolutions of what we were in the 90s and what we are now
Right.
because of people like some people in the room here who brought that industry to a world-class level. And I wanted to focus 100% of my passion and energy into what we do here in the country. And it's not only in BC, it's not only Niagara, it's Vancouver Island, it's Nova Scotia. Geez, Nova Scotia makes some fantastic stuff. So yeah, we're excited of where we are. And in terms of Chardonnay, I'm sorry, we are the best.
Don't apologize.
We are the best.
That's very
producing
Canadian.
Chardonnay country in the world. In terms of pricing, I mean, we can go toe to toe with Burgundy any day of the year.
Well, just what I'm drinking right here is like.
If
I've
you
been to
drink that for
Burgundy and
Burgundy,
and
it's
I
gonna
know-
be $250 a bottle minimum.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so what's your take here? One or two?
As a personal favorite, is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah, we're just asking which one,
Just for fun.
just for fun.
I would say one.
You would say one? There you go.
Okay.
So we have the average wine enthusiast
Yes,
here.
AWE.
I love it. Yeah,
There you
thanks,
go.
Mike.
So, Daryl, you coming in? So we have another big Chardonnay fan here in the house, Daryl Hickey.
Woo!
In the house, in the house. Number two for you, Daryl.
That's number 2?
That's number one here.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go into the pros side right after, okay? We're gonna start bringing the pros.
Who's the pros? Is it Faik, the owner of the winery?
Yeah, and maybe we
Is
might
it,
bring Peter as well to see,
Peter
if they-
Gamble
if-
and Sperling?
If they maybe sometimes select a different one. One, number one. Number one for Daryl.
What do you like about one?
Bigger?
Or is this just the one that you would reach for first?
I would definitely reach for it first.
There you go. That's how I know.
It made my palate happiest.
There you go.
Nose and palate.
There you go.
Yep,
That's a good reason enough.
perfect. Thanks, Daryl.
Mike, are you coming and take a stab at it? You'll leave it to the guests. Okay.
Is Ann and Peter here? still?
Peter, you want to come and give it a try? There you go. There you go. So the fun part in here. So now we're gonna have the winemaker, the person who made the
Oh.
wine. Here's Peter Gamble, everyone. So this is number two, and we're going here with number one.
Can I copy your two-fisted method?
You should.
I would be splashing the wines all over the place.
Ooh, yeah. I love 19 Chardonnay. Like Carl, we talked about it earlier in the day, and
Yeah.
the 19 was such a fabulous year in Niagara, so fabulous fruit, really great structure, very Burgundian.
And we're talking a little bit because a little cooler vintage, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you didn't have to fight the
Little cooler, a
sugar.
little longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The children are growing pretty well, eh?
yeah. not bad,
I mean-
not bad, yeah. Oh, come on, Carl, you slipped in a Montrachet.
Yeah, I know. I know. I did. I did.
Mhm. I like the breadth on that. After that Cab Franc, I'm gonna go with number one.
Gotta go with number one.
All
There
right.
you go.
Really.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Peter Gamble.
Okay, are we doing the big reveal?
Not yet, not yet. I want to bring
One
one
more?
more person. Who's coming in here? Marcel's gone. Want to take some time? No, why not? Why not? Go on. Go on.
I do want to taste the Chard. I've had these before.
Did you?
And,
Yeah.
All right, and you are winemaker at Mary Nissen,
Yeah, Mitchell, McCurdy.
Mitchell McCurdy, Mitch
Mitch.
McCurdy.
There is number two. So yeah. Incredible nose, eh?
Yeah, they're so
Aromatics,
delicate,
so
so pretty.
What's your take on 2019 versus 2020 Chardonnays?
I mean, I gotta say the same thing that everybody else kind of said, is that cooler vintage, you let a lot of things develop at the right pace. I mean, 2020 was so wonderful for that big, like, heavy expression of Chardonnay, but 2019 keeps that like cool, crisp acid. It really brings some ageability to these charts.
Yeah. I think that's why you like the 19, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's more precision. There's like, I love structured wine, right? So to me, it's just naturally hit my soft spot. But these wines are world class. Soft texture, the aromatic are absolutely fantastic.
I'm distracted because I'm not usually on live video.
Ah,
Which one's which? Because I think I'm voting for this one.
Yeah, this is number 2, this is number 1.
I'm number one.
You're number 1? There you
okay.
go. So we have Mitch here.
Mitch McCurdy from
Mitch
Mary
McCurdy from
Nissen.
Mary
Thanks,
Nissen.
Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay, the reveal. Are we doing the reveal?
Well, they'll do the reveal here.
Or are we
Okay,
gonna
let's
leave
see.
it open? Other people can try and leave their name. And we
Okay?
can reveal
I
it
need to
right
know- I don't know
after.
which one is which, so I need to see what's on the
Okay.
lead, right?
So do we want to do the reveal now or after the interview with Anne and Peter?
If you're the boss, you tell me if you want to wait a little bit more.
Yeah,
Let's keep going during the interview. So let's move on to.
because
so-
that way other people can try, leave their name.
Absolutely. So-
All right,
Oh,
and then
before we
we'll
go that, we'll bring Richard De Silva in. Richard De Silva, yeah, come on in. You're
All
live.
right.
Directly from British Columbia.
Woohoo.
We're talking about Chardonnay du Monde here, and your family.
Yeah,
Eh?
yeah, we had the checkmate thing here, the Joy de Cleva and family connection, and yeah, it's been fantastic to have a.
Number 1, number 2, you just tell me which one you like. These are 2019 vintage. One is the Reserve West, the other one is Reserve 1. One of the two have won gold at Chardonnay du Monde, and the other one has won silver. So both made by Peter and Anne.
This is down the east, so this is the one that won.
I don't know. Well, I have no idea. So
I'm on the squad here.
there's 2 people on that ball. It's you and me.
Oh,
So
Right.
the other one?
the other one is on the other one. We'll see.
There you go.
We'll see.
There
We'll
you
find
go.
out soon.
All
So
right.
Let's get to the Peter Gamble and Sperling interview. It was recorded a couple days ago. And we're going to go back to chat with the pros and the members. So you are live on location. We're at Lely Stonebridge, a beautiful winery in Niagara on the lake. We have Carl's Wine Club members here. We have industry members from all over Niagara. So
There we
thanks
go.
for tuning in.
Thank you. And we're going to reveal the blind tasting experiment right after this much shorter interview than the last one.
For Lely and Stonebridge Vineyard. So welcome, Anne and Peter. How are you doing today?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, fabulously.
Great. It's an exciting day. We have the wine industry gathering here at Stonebridge and Lely at this tasting room. We have a bunch of Carl's Wine Club members. And now from across the country, we have members listening to the live show here going on. So now what I want to do here, Anne and Peter, I would like you to just to put in perspective a little bit of your body of work in the Canadian wine industry, because you're not newbies on the block. You guys have your thumbprint all over the industry, and you used to, like, until very recently, own the winery here in Kelowna, British Columbia. So how about you tell us a little bit of where you have your influence here on the wine industry?
Okay, so delighted to be here. Happy to talk about this. It's certainly been our life, and so right out of university, we both began in the wine industry.
And so it's been a long time. We've gone coast to coast. Benjamin Bridge, Lightfoot and Wolfville in Nova Scotia, both projects that we spent a long time on. The principal consultant in the commencement of both of those. Stratus and Ravine and Niagara. Spent some time in background early days in winemaking in Niagara with what has become Trius now. But went from there, in my case, to the co-founding position with as executive director of the VQA, and did that for a decade, and then got back into, as that became more and more bureaucratic, as we expected it would, as Appellation systems do. Got back into winemaking, the fun part of the industry, and did the ones that I've mentioned, and then concentrated essentially on the development of top-end wineries over the last 10 to 15 years. So some involvement with Dobbin, involvement with Cloudsley, involvement with Lely, involvement with Stonebridge before it did the Lely involvement. We'll talk a bit about that, and a number of other projects, consultation of that type.
It's just a few here and there. I'm glad to hear Benjamin Bridge, because we're bringing them on board. We're doing our Pan-Canadian Masterclass that we're bringing all of the wine industry from coast to coast to British Columbia in June. And Jean-Benoit Delaurier is part of our cohort. He's traveling to British Columbia to spend a full weekend with us. So it's really, really exciting. What he does there, the precision of his small batch bubblies are absolutely world class. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
And how about you, Anne? Do you have a few projects that you work on your own, and it's always hand in hand with what Peter do?
Well, I mean, Peter started, describing the history from sort of east to west, and in my case, it's more of a west to east kind of history. So grew up in the Okanagan in Kelowna on a vineyard, and spent much of my youth hanging out amongst the vines. And then after university, I started, working for a big winery, because in the mid 80s, there weren't many small wineries, except for, a few very family run estate properties that were just starting up. And then ended up at Cedar Creek and working with, probably close to 20 growers at that point. And then in 95, I moved to Niagara. And that's when I started doing some, startup work, and did the establishment of Malivoire, and then moved over to Southbrook. And so we, established Southbrook as the first biodynamic vineyard and winery in Canada, certified. That was in 2008 when we got our certification and released our first wines. And then slowly over time started to do some startups. Also, we started up the Sperling Vineyards label in Kelowna in 2008. And then I worked with Clos de Soleil to get them established, and until they were moved into their own facilities in the Similkameen. And then so kind of working out in British Columbia as well as Niagara, and then along with Peter doing some of the projects in Nova Scotia, and just ongoing work as it relates to vineyards, and particularly organics in the vineyards.
It's awesome, because we had Clos du Soleil as one of our feature a couple months ago. We had a beautiful, amazing interview with Michael Clark. He's a very interesting personage. So really, really cool stuff coming from the Similkameen lately. Like with Courcelette and obviously Clos du Soleil. Some of the wines are absolutely off the chart from out there. Special terroir, that's for sure. But one thing, to get back to Nova Scotia, I was in an interview with Brian Schmid maybe a year ago, when I asked Brian, I said, if you were not making wine in Niagara, Brian, where would you in the world make wines? Would it be in New Zealand, in Chile, in France, in Italy? And I'm expecting like a exotic place or something. And he paused for a quarter second. He's like, huh, Nova Scotia. And I was like, oh my God, wow. The answer in the way he answered it, I was like, yeah, this is really, really, really cool. So what did attract you so much with Nova Scotia?
Nova Scotia is a fabulous climate. It has, tremendous potential for cool climate grape varieties. So for the production of classic sparkling, long time on the lees because the acids are so high, you get such great clarity, beautiful, vibrant, soprano kind of flavors. It's pretty amazing. We had the kids there, and the kids when they were very young, because that began back just after 2000. And the kids in the back seat were eating local strawberries and going, man, they're unbelievable. And it's true, the fresh fruit flavors in Nova Scotia are just fantastic.
That is awesome. You know what? That's our next stop. That's where we're going to go next. We can't wait to visit Gaspereau Valley and the beautiful spot on the Annapolis Valley. So let's get back of where we want to go, where we want to talk about. It's your involvement with Lely Stonebridge. I have to say, maybe a year or so ago, for the first time, I was in connection with Thomas Reed, and Thomas was giving me a little bit of the background, and I was a little skeptical because of the previous owner and like the way that the reputation on the market was on the Lely Vineyard, and I was like, oh my God! And Thomas would say, "Carl, you have no idea." We're with Anne Sperling and Peter Gamble. We're revamping the whole program. Our vineyard now is absolutely top notch. You need to come and try. And we started trying. At first, I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe the quality of the wine. I couldn't believe the precision. And the first wine that I tasted was the Zweigel under the Lely vineyard. And holy moly, it was incredible. I tasted the Riesling following that. And I was like, okay, from there, I knew I was up for a treat, and I moved on to the Stonebridge label, and I totally fell in love. I'm a huge fan of Chardonnay. Chardonnay is my biggest passion, and when I went to taste the Reserve East and the Reserve West side by side, I was sold. I'm like, okay, these Chardonnay are absolutely at the very top of what we do here. So the body of work is very impressive. So how did you guys came on board with Lely? Is it Faik just placing a phone call when he purchased? Were you there before? How that whole thing happened?
Yeah, well, there are a couple connections on that one. One was that they were blown away, which Faik and his wife were both blown away with a Ravine Chardonnay that they tasted in the early years. They attributed their getting involved in the industry with having tried that wine and thought that was sort of their inspiration in going forward. They then made some phone calls a little bit later, and this is probably more coincidental than anything. He ended up talking at Stratus, so he had a conversation. It was going on. It was with J.L. Grew, the winemaker at Stratus, and he was talking about moving forward with a winery and wondering about consultation. And J.L., I've been consulting obviously from Stratus right from the outset. So JL suggested that he reach out to me, and so that was really the start of it. So thank you, JL. It's a great project. We love being on it. Fake's fabulous to work with, and so that's how it began. And at that point, he had just purchased the vineyard and was looking at how to proceed, and so that began, and that was Stonebridge. Lely came about later.
That's fantastic. And so when you started over there, at which level the Stonebridge vineyard was it planted? Was this just about to be planted? The plan was run, how everything, because I know that the Lely vineyard has a long history. It's one of the anchor of Niagara on the lake, but Stonebridge vineyard is something a little bit more new, is a little newer.
Yeah, Stonebridge is in the center of the peninsula, sort of the Line 5, Concession 5 area, so right dead center of Niagara on the lake. And it's a warm area. It's a warm area. It's particularly infertile soil. So super low crops helps us in the production of, a high quality wine. You wouldn't want to try and do a volume wine there just because it is, very low productivity, but fabulous concentration of flavors. And when Faik purchased it, there was already about a 10-acre block, 9-acre, I think, of Chardonnay. And the rest of it, believe it or not, or part of the rest of it was done in plums. And so those were taken out. So that was the beginning of the project, determining what to do with the balance of the 40 acres, how to proceed, which varieties are best suited to the area, focusing on the development of the Chardonnay block that was already in place, and commencing from there.
Okay, and Anne, when did you jump into the project? Because my understanding of the chronology here, it's Peter was involved first, and you came on board maybe in a year or two after.
Yeah, I mean, like many of our projects, sometimes one of us leads and the other one participates in, providing their depth in terms of the skill set. So initially on the Stonebridge wines, I was more in the background, and Peter was leading that. But it was, really about 2 to 3 years ago that I started to take the lead on that project, especially with the acquisition of the Lely property.
Okay, so Peter, I have the East, the Reserve East, the Reserve West. So I want you to take us to the vineyard, because when I taste these two wines, there's definitely, okay, it's from the same mom, but the two siblings are very different, are fairly different. Is it more from the vineyard side? Is it completely the same winemaking? Take us to the vineyard and the whole process here and where these differences are coming from.
Okay, let me back you up a little bit. I'm going to back you up to 17, because 17 was the first year that we made wine from the property, and not all of it. In fact, we made a small percentage of it. Faik wanted to get to understand it, know how good it was, determine, that it was of the quality that we wanted to work with. And so 17 we began. And when Anne says we like to keep a tight line on what we start with, whenever I'm doing something like that, and the winery has not yet been built, because this, of course, was the early days, we do the winemaking normally where Anne is or where I already am, so we can keep a close eye on it. I was working with, at the time, with Cloudsley. And so the 17s and 18s were made at Cloudsley. The 19 we moved over to Southbrook, where Anne is. So that way, we have full control of the winemaking. We don't like to, that's really important to us. And so that way we still maintain full control over the viticulture and full control over the winemaking. And so we began with the 17. So it's a contiguous block, and the soils aren't dissimilar from east to west. There's slight variations. There's some clonal variations as well, the usual sort of suspects. And similarly with rootstocks, we treat it relatively the same, but it's always a tasting matter, Carl. So you're walking through the vineyard, you're tasting, row by row and sort of section by section, trying to get a sense of what the flavors are like. And it really, in 17, I worked with the west side of the block, not the furthest west, but toward the western section of the block, in order to create 17. A smoker wine in my mind. I loved 17 and 19, especially as vintages for Chardonnay in Ontario. A little bit cooler than others, but absolutely spectacular. And if you're targeting, let's say, a Burgundy paradigm, which I very much like to do in Niagara, because I think we're capable of that, and I love those traits and those characteristics. Moving, staying away from the simplistic fruit of a more sort of new world approach, to use that phrase, and going towards something classical and ageable. So began with 17 and that, and then started to sense, with Anne's involvement in viticulture, especially as we move along. I always bow to Anne on viticulture. So on any of the projects, if it gets really difficult in the vineyard, or the questions are tricky, or it's really, an issue on how we develop, I bow to Anne on viticultural things. And so Anne's involvement would have come in all along that whole sort of startup 3-year period, and how we move it. And we moved to an east-west because of the flavor differences between them, primarily on a taste thing.
Ah, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, in terms of rating, I was just tasting back and forth, and I thought that the East has a little bit more precision, while the West had a little bit more of a plush opulence. So that was just my personal personal assessment of it, but what an incredible duo of wine to do side by side. So I want to talk about the 2019 vintage. I had that conversation with multiple producer. Like I've said earlier, I'm a big fan of Chardonnay. We all know the reputation of the 2020 vintage, the vintage of the century, the big and bold vintage. You get the Cabernet Franc, the Cabernet Sauv are surfacing back from Niagara on that vintage. So, bold and big and rich wines. And when I do the side by side from a 19 in the 20s, especially on Pinots and Chardonnay, I've seen a tremendous difference. And I'm such a fan of the 2019 Chardonnays. I get so much finesse. I get more precision. So, what's your opinion? Were you as thrilled in 2020 to work with the Chardonnay, thinking that like it's gonna? What's the thought process as a winemaker and viticulturist here, you guys, when you have a vintage like 20 versus a vintage like 19?
Well, so, to be perfectly honest, for Chardonnay making, especially, Riesling too, Pinot, I mean, we love the vintages like 17 and 19, where the season is cool, not so many hot days in the middle of summer, and a nice long dry fall where the grapes can ripen slowly over, the full month of September. And those are like true gifts really for those cool climate wines. And, there's, we were actually talking about this the other day, like for a vintage rating, you almost want to have a different category for, the Bordeaux reds or the big reds versus the cool climate varieties, because really, for us, a 2019 vintage is like a 10 out of 10 varieties, Merlot, Cab Franc, and Cab Sauv, Petit Verdot, and that's when you really shine with the 2020 type vintages, where it was not only a long season but also had the heat and additional heat kind of coming in September to really push through on those long season varieties like Cab Sauv and Cab Franc. So it's it's really like comparing sort of apples and oranges, literally, where you want that long season for those oranges, but for the apples, you want that bright, crisp, cool nights and keeping those acidity and those flavors. So
I have this on deck now. That's the 2020 Cabernet Sauvignon from Stonebridge. This is the one that I'm opening tonight. I'm done with the Chardonnays and the tasting notes. I have done the bubblies. Anyway, so I'm going on to this big boy. 125 cases made here. What can I expect from that big dog?
Well, we like all the wines, and the Chardonnays, but the Bordeaux varieties too. I mean, we're making those wines and aging them for quite a long time in barrel. Like, most of them are there for 18 months to almost 2 years. And so when we come to evaluate those individual barrels, we're not just thinking about, 2020, we got to make a blockbuster wine here. It's more like, how's the continuity? How are we expressing the terroir? We want to be true to the vineyard and sort of the ongoing nature of the project. And so, for a big part of it, we're like, how do we sort of tame this beast? And that's what we tried to do with the 2020 Cab Sauv is, select and blend the barrels so that we've got a wine to give us that sort of true expression from the vineyard and from the region. So you're going to get those bold flavors. You're going to get, really nice developed tannins and, good length in the wine, but hopefully there's a bit of elegance there too.
I'm pretty excited. It's going to be open in the middle of the afternoon and ready to go for later on, but really, really excited. I would like to, I have a question. You have a good body of work on both sides of Niagara. You work on the escarpment, you work on the bench, you work in Niagara on the lake. what is the fundamental difference? Because we have lots of members, lots of listeners right now who are listening from the West Coast, and most people know Niagara as Niagara, the region on its own. And as you know, the Kelowna East Slope is fairly different than the Golden Miles, right? So people from BC know that, and when we talk from our members in the eastern part of the country, they don't necessarily understand the fundamental difference between the two extreme, or the Osoyoos East Bench versus Kelowna. So here we're talking about Niagara on the 4 Mile Creek appellation versus the escarpment versus, let's say, the 20 Mile Bench. What is the fundamental difference between these two regional appellations?
Well, the fundamental difference geologically is that, number one, as you move toward the west, you get much closer to the lake. So the moderating effects of the lake on the properties on the west end, if you're looking at Grimsby all the way through Beamsville, Jordan, that whole stretch that's most known for and best known for the production of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Riesling, the cooler climate varieties, that north-facing slope of the bench, and the change in the exposure as a result of that, the sparser soils that automatically give you a much lower production. It'd be really hard to crop more than, say, 3 to 4 tons an acre on the bench, just because of the nature of the bench. Rocky undersoils. You get much more fertile, and you get greater distances potentially from the lake as you move toward the east. So by the time, for example, you're in St. David's, Queenston, you're now 13, 14 kilometers from the lake instead of being a kilometer from the lake. Much different. All of those moderating effects of the great big body of water now not having as much impact. Capable of getting a little more ripeness, a little more intensity, a little more depth, and also getting richer soils in parts of that too, Carl, that allow you to get to work toward a little more richness. So for example, in working, using the obvious example here, in the Lely Vineyard, as you get, sort of half of that distance away, still a little bit of the impact from the Niagara River there, so it alters it a bit too. But within the context of that, you're looking at doing, for example, if you're doing a Chardonnay, you'd be looking at doing something richer, a little more intense. On 7 Vineyard that we work on is another indication of that. So that sort of general area, I'd like to move to something that's a little more, let's say, Meursault style than Chablis. And that might define sort of the difference stylistically between, a classically terroir and climate-driven Chardonnay being produced in Niagara in the midst of the flats, and something being produced on the edges of the slopes up in the bench.
That's a very good answer. Let's get back to Lely before we hang that up for the rest of, and get back to the room and chat with all of our guests here. So from the Lely label specifically, what can we expect in terms of, okay, we talked briefly about the Zweigel. The Zweigel was spectacular. So outside of this Zweigel, what is planted in the Lely Vineyard, and what can we expect in terms of style of wine with Lely?
Yeah, so there's a huge range of varieties that the Donna and David Lely planted in, through the 1970s all the way up into the 1990s. And so we're working with all those varieties. So, you mentioned the Zweigelt, there's Chardonnay, there's going to be and there is the full range of Bordeaux varieties, including Malbec and Petit Verdot. And so what's really amazing about the Lely property, it's a thin strip spanning 20 acres. And the sort of front of the property at the Niagara Parkway has the influence of the Niagara River, as Peter mentioned. And then as you move, it covers almost a full kilometer away from the river. So you're getting, slightly different influences, warmer and cooler effect on the sort of back of the property versus the front of the property. So what's really lovely about that location is long ripening through the fall. So we can do some early harvesting, with the earlier varieties like Zweigelt and Chardonnay in September. And then we'll be harvesting those Bordeaux varieties, right into early parts of November. And but what we see there is a little more elegance. They're not as beefy from the property, but very, very classic in style. So, you know, there's such great potential there to produce wines that are very pure and true of their varietal character.
Because I played a bit with the Rieslings from the Lely Vineyard and its own, and there's a beautiful precision into these. I tasted the off dry versus side by side, the dry and the wild ferment. So it leads me to ask: is wild ferment is a little bit more of your part of your philosophy, or it would truly depend if there's specific cuvee, or this is something really part of your whole program?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, Peter mentioned about the various projects and you know, kind of like working each one individually to the site and to the vineyard traits and that sort of thing. But in terms of the, you know, philosophy about wild fermentation, I mean, it's certainly something that Faik is big on. His sort of, you know, sensibility towards wine is for that more complex and you know, kind of Eurocentric kind of focus on the wines. And so that's really, you know, a good kind of, you know, we're on the same page on that. And we love the wild ferments. I mean, we're working in the vineyards with, you know, a more delicate touch. We don't have the heavy, you know, synthetic fertilizers. So we get, you know, a good, reliable inoculum from the yeast naturally coming from the vineyard. And we like to work with that to, you know, create complexity, a slower ferment perhaps. And, you know, just sometimes those Chardonnay barrels take until, you know, almost the next harvest to finish, but we get a lot of complexity from that. So working with wild yeast is important. And, you know, it's still a bit early days on the Lely property for us. And so we're experimenting a little bit on the style. So that's why you've got the two Rieslings, you know, because they were sourced from the same block, but you know, just slightly different touch to see how they evolve and you know, how the different techniques translates in the wine over time.
That's interesting. One more thing. I want to. There you go. Here, this is a pretty special little sticker here. I mean, this one is great too. I mean, there's no offense to our National Wine Award. I mean, it can put a winery right on a different path when you win a gold medal or any medal, because I can say scores help to sell wine. I mean, people rely on the opinion of the expert and the opinion of the critic sometimes to make to have a preconceived opinion. But the Chardonnay du Monde, it's one of the most prestigious competition in the world, specifically focused on Chardonnay. What does it mean to get this sticker on the bottle? So gold medal Chardonnay du Monde for that 2019 Chardonnay, the Reserve East.
You're definitively right about the effect on sales. Like we watched that launch after that. So people pay a lot of attention to it. And, you know, wins in Europe are different than wins in Canada. And I think that's a Canadian thing, whether it's our, you know, ballet company being assessed or anything in Canada. I think, you know, praise from outside and praise from, you know, original areas of wine production in these cases are really, really important. So we did watch that wine lift off in sales. And, you know, it's funny, we go back and forth a bit, for example, between the East and the West and the Chardonnay in terms of, you know, what's our favorite and you know, how's it drinking now and what it'll be like in another 3 or 4 years. You know, they're both, you know, our children, essentially. You know, we're delighted with both of them, and to have one of them win an award and sort of launch off in terms of sales, we, you know, sometimes you feel a little grumpy about the other one, you know, not achieving the same things, but it's great news. It's good for the industry. We're delighted to have been there for it. Yeah.
There's a fun little blind tasting going on in the room right now. We have a bottle of East and a bottle of West in the brown bag, and I want to see who will give the nudge to which one, and we're going to do a little poll at the end. So I respect Chardonnay du Monde a lot, but I like to do my own test on my own. So we're going to have a better pulse after that. So, and Peter, thank you so much for your time. It's been tremendous connecting with you. It's been amazing to learn more about your philosophy, and tasting your wines is always a treat. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I wish you a great rest of your evening out there, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah,
Take
cheers.
care.
Woohoo!
There you go.
We are back on the
So-
show.
That's pretty awesome, eh?
Yeah,
Great interview.
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. Now it's time, right? We just talked about it in the interview. We're doing a poll. I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 people who have voted for the bottle number 1.
Hey.
And bottle number one is, that's the bottle who Sue and staff, Grant, Mike, enthusiast, Daryl, Mitch McCurdy from Marinessence, Susan, Dean, and Rick, they all voted for the number 1. Also, Peter Gamble vote for that one. And this is the Reserve West. There you go, Reserve West.
You've got about
Good.
60 seconds.
The silver medal. So we have
So how many vote difference?
for the Reserve East. It's Carl Boucher, Richard De Silva, Mira, Elaine, and
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
fantastic world-class wine. The link is coming out to you, Carl's Wine Club members. The wines are in sales with the club very, very soon. 11 different wines. So, Mira Boucher,
Carl
Thank-
Boucher.
thank you. Canadian
Cheers.
wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. See you next time.